So we are Monmouth Cluster schools, and we are centred around the town of Monmouth in Monmouthshire, and we are 8 primaries and 1 secondary. We've got quite a wide geographical location and a number of rural outlying schools. As a cluster, we have very good working relationship. We are very well established. A number of heads have been in the cluster for a number of years. I am the cluster lead, and most recently we have been looking at curriculum development, but in the last year we've had a real focus on tackling aspects of poverty. So as a cluster, we've met, we have regular meetings every fortnight, we have a real commitment to act, we set clear agendas and actions, and from there we've developed our processes.
So as a cluster, we have been extremely proactive with identifying aspects of poverty through a cluster approach. We have worked really hard through regular head teachers meetings, through training with the local authority to come together to identify what is it that, or how can we mitigate poverty amongst our families. To begin with, we identified and co-constructed a survey for pupils, staff and parents to look at what is it and what challenges are they facing. What does poverty mean within our families' households? Through identifying the results of this survey, through working very closely with parents, we identified commonalities amongst the cluster of what we needed to do to change our practice. Furthermore, it was interesting to look at how the lack of knowledge in some schools of the meaning of poverty, what does poverty mean, what does poverty look like, aligned across pupils across the cluster. Through our findings, we identified that there were 3 commonalities between all cluster schools. Those findings were uniform, school trips, and fun activities. Parents were sharing with us the challenges of paying for school uniform, and we have now a common cluster approach which aligns school uniform and how we can support families with that. We also were proactive in seeking grants so that we could host, and we're hosting one at Raglan, a tournament whereby children could access a sporting event whereby the transport could be paid for. We have also looked at things bespoke to our school. Raglan, for example, where I'm head teacher, has been identified as having the most hidden pockets deprivation through Monmouthshire. Through research undertaken with the local authority, this has been key for me as a head teacher to adapt and change our practice and look at how are these families being affected. So we have created a community pantry working very hard with community members and local businesses who have all contributed to this community pantry to be able to support local families. We are consistently reviewing our practice as a cluster. We have a cluster vision plan in place, and we've also been able to explore bespoke to our schools what experiences can we encourage our families and children to be part of, bespoke to where we live in the authority. And so we've come up with community experiences for all pupils, and this has really enriched the opportunities that the children and we can offer.
So the professional learning provided by the EAS enabled us as a school, but also our cluster within Monmouth, to align our thinking and really come together collaboratively to ensure that we really focused on tackling those aspects of poverty. It enabled us to create and develop our cluster vision, which we then disseminated and shared with our schools, provided training for our staff and our governors. It enabled us to provide surveys for our staff, pupils and governors to ensure that we really focused on developing those areas. Following our initial in training, we had lots of introductions. The vision and action plan were developed. Really beneficial was a midpoint review where our EAS wellbeing lead came and joined us as a cluster. So we had a review. It enabled that momentum to keep going, to ensure that we were on our journey together as a cluster, but obviously specific for our school needs and enabling that to happen. regular review of our action plan enabled tweaks and activities to be developed, and our most recent training event within the local authority and with the EAS has enabled us to reach the point we are today, ensuring that we are continuing that journey and reviewing our offer and our provision for our learners and families within our local authority and cluster.
So obviously we're very much on a journey. We started this work together around about a year ago, and obviously things are developing rather than being firmly embedded. However, I would say there are clear things that we can see and the children are benefiting from. Most recently, I've undertaken a survey with my parents to find out what they think about the things that we've put into place, and early signs are showing us that they feel that there's been a real conscious effort to bring down the cost of the school day. Things such as events and charity events are very much focused upon children not having to dress up, for example. They're not having to bring money in, so everything is sort of hidden and concealed. So in terms of our learners, there's a real sense of equity amongst everybody. Everybody is treated as an equal. There are no differences between our learners, and everybody feels that they are included. So I would say that's been a real benefit. I would also say that in terms of our children, they all have the same experiences. Everybody's entitled to the same things. So it doesn't matter what background you come from, everybody is treated in the same way.